All right, let's talk about inversions. Inversions are really easy. Think of it almost like in martial arts, how you can have different stances, you know? Well, it's the same thing here with playing the piano. You basically can have about 3 different positions. That's it. 3 positions. The first position is the one that we're most familiar with, and that's called the root position. No matter what chord you are on, a root position, that means that, especially in the right hand, your thumb is on whatever the chord is. So if it's a C chord, your thumb's on it. If it's a D chord, your thumb's on it. If it's an F chord, your thumb's on it. Root position means your thumb in the right hand is on the chord, and we have a third interval and a third interval. So that's a third interval here. We skip this note, and a third interval here. So a C chord is spelled with the letters C, E, G. If you do it with your left hand, all you do is you put your pinky on the root. So we just simply go 1, 3, 5. Okay? So that's a C, E, and a G. This is called root position. And this is the most familiar, most common chord that we work with. The next is our inversions. Now to invert means to just flip. So what we can do is, because we have 3 notes, we can flip this twice until it's flipped around and we're back to where we were in root position. So all you do to invert is you take the bottom note and you put it up on top. So let's just say it's like your initials, your first name, your middle name, your last name. All you do is you take your first name and you put it at the end. So now we'd say your middle name, your last name, and your first name. When this happens, we now get a third interval and it's a fourth interval. This is called the first inversion. It's a third interval and a fourth. To invert it again, to flip it over, we just take your middle name and we put it at the end. So now we would say your middle name, your first name, your last name, your first name, and your middle name. This is called second inversion. It is a fourth interval with a third interval. Fourth interval with a third interval. And if we flip it one more time and take your last name and put it at the end of your name, we're right back to where we had your first name, your middle name, your last name. So all we do with a C chord is we play that root position and we play it with our thumb, our middle, and our pinky. When we go to the first inversion, we put our thumb on that middle note, E, and we put our pinky on that last note, which is C. And when we do this, you notice that all the fingers just come straight down with that fourth interval and the third interval. That makes it so your pointer finger now is what we play the G with. Okay, so because we have a third interval and a fourth interval, the first inversion in the right hand is where we use our pointer finger in the middle. When we invert again, we put our thumb on the middle note. Our pinky now is on E. And we let all our fingers just come down, and we'll notice that the C is lined up with our middle finger. So we're back to a fourth interval and a third interval for our second inversion. And then thumb goes to the middle note. We're back to root position. So again, middle finger for root position, pointer finger for first inversion, middle finger for second inversion, and middle finger for root. You can play this blocked, as we just have done, blocked, and you can play it broken, one note at a time. Once you have the sequence, you can do it all the way up the piano. So you can even start here, root, first, second, root, first, second, root, first, second, root, first, second, root. As you increase your speed, make sure you keep your pointer finger in the middle of the first inversion. That's how you get your fourth interval, which is going to help us out later. You can check out the rock video, but rock and roll, fourth intervals, rock and roll. So make sure you get used to using that pointer finger when you have that fourth interval there. Left hand, it's the same concept. Pinky, middle thumb for root position. Just move your pinky up to the middle note. And now we have our third and fourth interval, which makes the first inversion. But notice the first inversion in our left hand, when you let all the fingers come down, notice our middle finger is what we use for the first inversion. When we move the pinky up to the middle note, we're on our second inversion, let all the fingers come down. And now we notice in the second inversion for our left hand is where we use the pointer finger. And then we're back up to root position. So in the left hand, root, first, it's the second inversion where we use our pointer finger and up to root. Broken. inversions, the right hand uses the pointer finger in the middle on the first inversion. The left hand uses the pointer finger in the middle on the second inversion. And that is it. When you play your hands together, middle fingers at the same time. First inversions are pointer finger in the right hand. Second inversion are pointer finger in the left hand. And root position back to middle fingers. We can now apply this to any of the other chords in music. You can apply it to your D majors, your D minors. You can apply it to your A's. Now, certain chords, eventually, as we take a look at them, it does help to swap out some of the fingers depending on what black notes you're using. But what's interesting is when you start doing inversions with the black notes, that black notes helps you kind of keep a track of where you are. So for example, in a D chord, that black note's in the middle. When I invert, now the black note's at the bottom. When I invert, now the black note's at the top. And when I invert, I'm back to it being in the middle. When I do an E flat chord, 2 black notes. So now I'm not worried about the black notes, I'm thinking about the white note. The white note's in the middle. The white note inversion, now it's on the bottom. Now the white note, you guess it's gonna be on the top. And we're back to it being in the middle. So when you start to invert with other chords, one of the things that really helps a lot is just recognizing wherever that extra note is that's different. For example, the black note, or if you're working with 2 black notes, where the white note is, okay?